What's up? How are you? I hope you are well. Hope you're doing good as I am. And I want to share with you a couple quick recipes. Some easy, simple, but gourmet style raw food. So I'm actually going to make two different styles of pasta. One kelp noodle. Actually, I'm not going to make them. They're pre-made. But I did make, and I'm going to show you how to make squash pasta. This is with a yellow squash, crookneck squash. You can also do it with zucchini. So let's get started. I'm going to first go ahead and show you a really easy way to make pasta. If you do not have a contraption like this, a veggie pasta maker, which you can find online, go to my friend rawguru.com and they have them there, or you can Google, find different assortments of like very sturdy or just cheap ones. But the easy way to do it, if you don't have one or if you're waiting to get one, is you can take a vegetable peeler and take a yellow squash or a zucchini, and you just simply into linguine style pasta, as you can see, and just do that very simply. So as you can see, it makes linguine style pasta. So now that is not what I'm going to make right now. I already made some pasta, as you can see. So I'm going to take this, the yellow squash, which I cut in half and cut off the tips so that they would fit perfectly into this vegetable pasta maker. Now I'm going to simply spiral this around, and it's going to come out into long pasta-like pasta. Very simple. Look how long they get as well. Like, whoa. Definitely want to cut them off. Now, another process that most people don't know, and what I found most raw chefs don't even know, is that if you really want the pasta to be pasta-like, like consistency and texture-wise, and also if you don't want your pasta to be runny once you put the sauce on it, you take a little bit of salt. Now I prefer Himalayan, or otherwise known as pink salt, but I also like a really good sea salt as well, and that's what I'm using today because of the availability of the pink or Himalayan salt. So what I did is I just sprinkled a little bit on there, and now what it's going to do is it's going to sweat the noodles. And let's see, I think this one right here is, if you can tell, the water is starting to come out of the noodles. So that takes about 15 minutes for the water to really start coming out, and then you basically just massage the water out. You squeeze it, and you squeeze it, and water, as you can see, starts coming out. Now once you've actually got all the water out, or a large percentage of it, then once your sauce goes on to the zucchini or squash pasta, it won't completely liquefy the recipe. And it's really a lot more pasta-like. So that's a really simple and easy process, something that is really valuable to know. Now I'm also going to take these kelp noodles, and another thing about kelp noodles, a trick as well, is that usually they're crunchy. Like right now, these are crunchy. Now, if you take a sauce, your desired sauce, tonight I'm making a pasta sauce, like an Italian marinara style sauce. So if you take the sauce and you soak it up in the kelp noodles, and then you massage it, and you let it soak up into the kelp noodles, then the kelp noodles will not be crunchy, and they will be much more pasta-like as well. A trick that is very valuable if you don't want your kelp noodles crunchy. So now I'm going to make the sauce. It's going to be a very simple sauce. I want to make it simple for you. I'm taking these yellow cherry tomatoes. Now, if you notice, I still have the tips on them. Another thing that makes it quicker, these tips, believe me, are flavorless. And there's nothing wrong or bad with a little bit of extra greens in your sauce. So, another trick is that I'm taking the basil stems, thrown in there as well. Now, it is important that you put enough herbs and spices into your food, especially if you're trying to turn on your family or friends to raw foods, because believe me, your average person is used to very flavorful food, and a lot of raw foodists, they've kind of like transcended the flavor, so they could eat a lot more whole, and so they don't need the salts, the spices, the herbs, all of that good stuff. But if you're wanting a lot of flavor and you're specifically trying to turn someone on, definitely add a good amount of herbs and spices and enough salt and sweet. Very important. So now, just as with the stems on the tomatoes and the basil, I'm leaving these sprouts on the green onion. So I'm going to put a little bit of green onion in here. I'm taking 2 cloves of garlic, throwing some garlic in there, some fresh garlic. Unless you're allergic to garlic, I would say it's almost a necessity in Italian food in general. So now I'm going to put a little bit of Roma tomatoes. I'm putting 2 to be exact. So in measurement, there was a basket of yellow cherry tomatoes, which you could obviously use red cherry tomatoes. There was about a bunch of basil. There was almost a whole green onion, and there was 2 Roma tomatoes. Now, I'm going to add a little bit of biryani olive oil. This is one of my favorite olive oils. Extra virgin, cold processed. It's really amazing olive oil. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to add a little bit of dried minced onions, just to give it a little bit more. Probably about half a teaspoon. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Definitely want enough. Don't want too much salt. Of course, make sure to do it for your own taste buds. It's the most important part. And I'm going to add a little bit of coconut nectar from this company that I love so much called Coconut Secret. Very gooey. I'm going to add a little bit of coconut syrup, coconut nectar, and this is an important part, to add some type of a sweetener to a marinara. Back when I had my raw restaurant, Organica, the Living Cuisine, up in San Francisco, I was taught how to make a marinara, actually by a semi-Italian person, and I say semi because he didn't teach me the trick. But I started putting some dates into my marinara. And then this old, really sweet Italian woman came in to visit me at the restaurant, and she tasted my marinara and she says, "Ah, you figured out Grandma's secret ingredient into a marinara." And I'm like, "What's that?" Because I didn't even know. And she's like, "Sweetener." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I just started adding dates to my marinara." So I just added some coconut nectar. You could add agave. You could add maple syrup. Remember, those 2 aren't raw, but you know, to sacrifice a little bit of non-rawness for a really flavorful meal and recipe sometimes is need be, specifically when turning people on. So you could also add dates, or you can add coconut palm sugar. Coconut Secret also has an amazing coconut crystals as well. So I'm just going to use this. I think at this point it's going to be perfect, so let's try it out. Now, a high-powered blender such as a Blendtec or a Champion, God, Champion's not even a blender, or a Vitamix, which is actually my favorite. Using those are the best, but if you just have a regular blender, then that'll work as well. Now I'm going to basically just, I don't want to blend it too much. I'm going to pulse it a few times so it's still chunky. That's just the consistency that I want my marinara tonight. Now if I want a true marinara consistency, I usually take some sun-dried tomatoes and soak them and add them because it will give it even more of an actual marinara consistency. So let me taste this. Now, since this is for my beautiful goddess, Oshun, which is on the other side of the camera, hi Oshun, I want to make sure that it's just out of this world, amazing taste. And it's almost there. I need to add a tiny bit more sweetener and a tiny bit more salt. So a little bit more sugar, a little bit more salt. Not too much, just a little bit. So just, of course, taste it based on your taste buds. And after I add just a little bit more of this, it will be perfect. It has the right amount of herbs, the right amount of onion and garlic. It's towards the end of the bottle, so it's taking a moment here. So it doesn't need very much, just a little bit. I'm a big date fan. Dates are my favorite. Also, the dates help give it a consistency like a marinara, like the sun-dried tomatoes would as well. So, let's clean this up. Woohoo! Oh yeah. Yummy. Okay, cool. So now that is going to go onto the pasta. So very quickly, I'm just going to throw this into this bowl right here, and I'm going to show you a really quick butternut squash recipe or soup recipe. So now I'm going to make you a butternut squash celery soup. So very simple. I'm going to about 3 cups of the butternut squash. You can use the zucchini in this if you don't have any butternut squash. I'm taking 2 pieces of celery and then about a half bunch of cilantro. Now if you notice, once again I'm using the stems because there's no use in wasting the stems when you're blending something up. Because basically, in my opinion, it's just wasted. So I'm going to add a little bit more biryani olive oil. Or I guess it would be more, a little bit of. I'm going to put some chipotle pepper. I want to give it a little kick. A little black pepper. Now I'd say I'm using about a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, about an 1/8 teaspoon of chipotle. I'm going to use about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Actually, that was probably more like a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. There was about a tablespoon of the olive oil. Then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of these are minced dried onions. And then I'm going to use about 2 cups of water. 3 cups of water. So this is going to be a really quick, easy recipe for you to make, and it's going to be really tasty. Once again, I don't want it to be a creamy soup. I want it to be a chunky soup. So I'm just going to pulse it a few times so it all blends together, but it doesn't get creamy. Now, if I wanted to make it creamy, I would let it blend for longer. And if I wanted it warm, I would let it blend for even longer. Just if you are going to heat up your soups, make sure to have a thermometer close by so you can check it, make sure it doesn't go over 118. Let's see here. Yes. Woohoo! I don't need to do anything to that one. That tastes fabulous. So, as you can see, I just made 2 types of pasta. Kelp noodles, squash noodles, a marinara, and I give you some ideas to make it more of a marinara consistency. Sun-dried tomatoes after they've been soaked for about 15 minutes, and dates. Sweetener is important for marinara, and enough herbs and spices. And of course that's for when you're turning people on. Always follow your own guide, follow your taste buds, follow your inner guide, God. And simply put, you can just pretty much mix anything and come out with a really good recipe. You just have to kind of find a balance for the ingredients. So I just want to share this with you and be looking for more videos. I love you so much. Thank you, Oshun. I love you for everything, especially for taping this. So I'm going to treat her with some food. So, mwah. Mwah.